All right. Good evening, everyone. Are we live?
We're
Live na ba?
live.
Live na
Good
ba tayo?
evening, JP.
Good evening, dudes. Good evening, Fernando. Charot.
Oh yeah,
Kamusta?
Fernando. I'm doing fine,
Kamusta?
Jeff. I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking. Welcome to our second episode apparently, no? My second episode
Yeah.
na.
Yeah. But actually, before that, we're going to we're going to introduce ourselves first. Actually, we are from BNI Hawks Business Groomers Power Team, and we all welcome our viewers to our business nightcap, where we share our ideas and thoughts in different perspectives. Ayun. So for today's episode, we are breaking the silence and discussing the communication barriers that hold women back in the workplace. So this episode is dedicated actually, dudes, in celebration of the International Women's Month.
Amen, amen. All
Galing ah.
right. And I think it will be more appropriate to have a conversation with women for this topic, right?
Dapat. No? So yeah, before going to have our deep dive into our discussion for tonight, so yeah, we'll get to know first our guest for tonight and our panelists as well. So yeah, kindly introduce, ladies, kindly introduce yourself, your position in the company, and from what industry or company you are engaged with. Sige, ladies first tayo. Go
Hello,
ahead.
hello. Good evening, Jeff and Fernando, dudes. And of course,
Evening,
for
guys. Guys na naman, guys.
fellow women, we have Mia and Coach J. I'm Awi. My real name is Maurice Macapas. That's what you see on screen. And I am the lead consultant of Paths to Purpose Consultancy. It's an organizational development firm, and we help teams and individuals achieve their vision through purpose, people, and process. Wow, Mia, ano ba? Na-remind ka ba? No? Familiar sa'yo? Purpose, people,
Yes.
process. Over to you, Mia.
Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Fernando, Larice, and Coach Jejo. Diba? Na ano kayo tuloy? Na roll call. So, I'm Mia Santos. You can also known as Mama Mia. And I own Stitch by Mia. It's an online business that I started about 5 years ago, where I see it as a business that empowers women, particularly moms who stay at home and who still want to earn a living and be able to use their creative talents. So that's my business. Stitch by Me, we make handmade crocheted items for personal use, home use, and for gifts and giveaways. I also, before this business, I used to be in the corporate world for quite a while. Ayaw sabihin yung ilang ano, ilang
Ilang
for
taon na ba?
quite a while. Yeah,
By,
yun
by,
lang.
by how many
Meron
decades?
wag ng gano'n.
Uy, grabe.
Okay, okay.
But I did hold positions in HR, human resources, and in sales. So there, that's me. Good evening. Coach J.
Yeah,
Joe,
Coach
go.
Joe.
Thank you, Mama Mia, and everyone. Hi again, I'm Coach Jijo Vicencio from Winner Strengths. So I am a Gallup certified strengths coach. So at Winner Strengths, what we do is we coach individuals and teams and help them discover what their unique strengths are and help them to leverage that uniqueness so that they can reach their business goals and personal goals as well. And we use the globally acclaimed tool called Clifton Strengths from Gallup. There.
Ayun.
Thank you. Back to you, JP.
Thank you guys for the introduction. And feeling ko din nakalimutan din namin mag-introduce ng selves din, no? Di ba, dudes?
Your 30 seconds.
So I'll start.
Yeah, you start. LN, go ahead.
I'm Fernando Academia. They also call me Dudes. I own TLDR Digital Marketing. We used to be a full service digital marketing agency, but now we're focusing on consulting, but also on content creation for businesses here and there. So yeah, that's me. Your turn.
Medyo awkward din ah. Anyway, Jeff Pantaleon. You can call me JP. And I'm the owner of JP Management Consultancy, and we help businesses achieve global excellence standards through ISO certification. So ISO the sign. Charot.
Awesome.
Kailangan talaga kantahin yun tonight eh.
Of course, 30 seconds. Eh. Anyway, guys, so tonight no, is a very we have a very interesting topic no for our second episode sa Business Nightcap natin. And this talks about the some of the ano no, some silent issues that we are dealing with right now, especially with women siguro in the workplace na medyo hindi naiintindihan ng mga guys along the way or with siguro with other people din kasi. So that's what we try to discuss today. No? So yeah, direct to the point na tayo no with the question. So first question, no? Siguro what are the red flags or challenges ba for women in the workplace? No, this can be in the form of misinterpretation siguro, maybe less opportunity or promotion, or maybe unfair treatment. And usually, how do you deal with these situations pa? So what are the red flags and challenges ba usually women experiences in the workplace? Ayan. So maybe let's start with ano. Let's start with Awi. Go
Okay,
ahead,
sige,
Awi.
let's start with the oldest here. Nakalimutan kong banggitin that I have more than 2 decades. Naghanap kayo ng decades, di ba? So I have more than 2 decades of experience working in the corporate world. And I was reflecting on this topic a couple of days ago and was dahil marami na nga, 'di ba, maraming years na. So I was trying to um see some stages in terms of my kung early careers or then mid career and then yung latter part of my corporate life. And during my early career years, so that's when I had my first two of four kids. I remember very clearly on my second pregnancy or before my second pregnancy, there were what I would now consider microaggressions against women being getting pregnant, especially
Okay.
in HR. No, so at that time, I was in a huge HR team of I think we were about 30 something, 32, 30, yeah, 32, 33 individuals, and among those were just two males and the rest are females. But when I was new, I kept hearing parang jokes in the pantry or during meetings about, whenever people, syempre HR kami, so we definitely know when women report that they're pregnant because of the SSS benefits. So whenever there's news about women getting pregnant, there's always this parang half-meant joke about, oh, buntis na naman si ganyan. Or, nako, bawal magbuntis yan kasi may ganitong project. Or, oh, dito sa HR, ha, you're not allowed to get pregnant because we have so-and-so projects that are ongoing. So, of course, at the time, parang, I didn't feel comfortable, but I was new. So it's that pakikisama. It's that value of pakikisama or the behavior of pakikisama that really took over me, and I didn't express any discomfort in those kinds of conversations. Although I knew at that time that that was not a conversation that we should be having. Number one, because it was judgmental of the women who were having or getting pregnant, and number two, it's really none of our business. So when I got pregnant, um, you can just imagine how very uncomfortable I was about, thinking that I will be reporting this, and this is the group that talks about how women in this organization get pregnant. So it wasn't a very good place to be in. It was supposed to be something to be celebrated. Um, so it, I wish that at that time I had raised my hand and said, "Hey, we're not supposed to be talking about this like this," and like how I am talking about it now. But of course, hindsight is always 2020, and if I wish that also because the men were joining in and also the women were joining in, it felt like I was the one in the wrong for feeling like it was not a good a good way to talk about pregnancy in the workplace. So I didn't feel comfortable at all.
I wanna piggyback on that. I'm sorry. Okay lang ba yun? Puwede ba
Sige,
yun?
sige lang. Go lang, go lang. Go lang, Mama Mia.
Okay. No, because nga, my background is also HR, and I'd really hear it from the recruitment angle nga eh. Parang there would be there would be children no, grabbing your eyeglasses, and then
Classic.
and then there would be side comments. For instance, like if there were two candidates, one female and another male, and then sasabihin, uh, boss, pag-isipan mo yung pag-hire ng female kasi lalo na kapag ikakasal or kasal na, there will be a time that this employee will have to take a
Mag-leave.
leave. It's really more on the leave. It's not the being pregnant. It's being
Yeah, yeah.
out of the floor or the job for 3 months for free, something like that, no? And it becomes, of course, hindi naman siya yung parang yun talaga lang yung yun yung basis ng decision. But obviously, as a hiring manager, you kind of think of your operations too. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of them really thought long and hard about that.
Right.
But and let me just add also that in terms of the recruitment perspective nga talaga, things like there would be positions that would be hiring
No,
either
female only.
only women, and with women parang kailangan may qualifications. Ganito lang yung size mo, ganito lang yung height
That's
mo,
going, yeah.
things like that. And to me, parang,
Discriminatory.
anong kinalaman ng itsura? Di ba? Dun sa kakayanan niya na magtrabaho. You know, I guess let's face it, we're also in a culture that there are these kinds of traditions or maybe practices that hindi gano'n kadaling magbago, 'no?
Uh,
So, yun. That's where I'm coming from also when it comes to, these, hmm, hindi mo masabing malpractice, pero parang, um, not in the right
Beliefs.
place, I guess.
Right.
Practices that aren't in the right place.
yung sa akin lang is, yung for, I know it's discouraging, no? From the side of from the side of the applicant as a woman. But how about as an HR na woman? How does that feel na namimili kayo ng ganun? Is it different ba or what? I don't know.
It puts you in a hard place, in a difficult place, because you need to follow these quote unquote qualifications
Yeah.
to sort
Yes.
your
Yeah.
applicants. At the same time, it doesn't sit well in your morale and in your principles. But you're signed off with this company. So there's always that dilemma. But because of your work, and because you probably need your work to earn a living, right?
Uh-huh.
And it puts you in a very difficult situation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually harsh. Yeah, anyway. Sige, thank you for that, Mama Mia, no? Thank you, Awi din, no? Let's hear from Coach Jejo. No?
Yeah, I can definitely also recall some stories, and I also wanted to share that decades yung bilangan natin. No? So almost almost decades in a mix naman of the corporate, academe, also in a startup. I spent majority of that also as an HR manager. Um, in that course of working, in my working background, I have experienced then siguro the red flags that was asked in the question. I think generally women can be more emotional.
Mhm.
Generally, not all women naman, but generally women can be more emotional, and sometimes that can be taken against us. At least for me personally, I have
Mhm.
experienced, you know, I'm a highly emotional person. It's actually one of my strengths is being emotional. That makes me able to connect
Oh,
with
that's
people.
nice.
Yeah, but also in the workplace when there are bad days, in my early years as a in the school, um when I was a teacher, sometimes that would be taken against me because I would be kind of taking that burden of being so affected in my workplace, regardless if I am able to give results. I think that was the red flag. Because sometimes I just need time to vent, to cry, to cry. But I will
Mhm.
still submit, di ba, my requirements. And siguro just to give a contrast, if that's okay. The first time I experienced like a boss actually understanding my emotions was in
Mhm.
actually in a corporate setting. She was a woman, and I appreciated that because something happened to me at work, like to share, like my then boyfriend broke up with me through an email.
What's that?
through
Ano
an
yun?
e-
Sinong boyfriend?
but my boyfriend at the time
Oh, sorry.
broke up
Okay,
Oo.
with
okay.
me
Okay, okay.
through an email, which I read at work, which mistakenly I read at work. So of course I couldn't hide my emotions. It was in the middle of the day. And so my boss saw me, and I was trying to hold back tears. And she asked me what was wrong. She didn't I told her just the headline, and she just said, "You know what? Go out, walk, try and deal with that. It's okay, no problem." And I'm like, "No, no, no, I'll panicking because my mindset is like, oh no, emotions, bad." But and then she's like, "No, no, deal with that. Walk around the mall. Let me know if you want me to come with you, but just come back when you're ready." She didn't tell me that she was gonna move the deadline. No, she just gave me
Mm.
that space to just deal with my emotions, even if
Mhm.
it was in the middle of the workday. So it was just a nice contrast with the earlier red flag. Yeah.
So sa ex-boyfriend, comment down below yung name, guys. Or
Don't break up with people through email.
or share this to him so that he will learn his lesson. No, just kidding.
Acknowledged and noted.
And for those who are planning to send that email, you know how it affects them na. No
Yeah.
sending na.
Give
No
them a
sending.
call
Oo.
after work.
Ghost na
Correct.
lang. No,
Uh,
just kidding.
Uy, grabe.
Just kidding.
Usap muna din ghost. Charot lang. Anyway, sige, thank you for that, J-Jo, no? Thank you for that. Very, very interesting, very interesting. Uh, let's have Mama Mia siguro. Mama Mi, yung pain points or yung pain points, yung red flags. Side comment mo yun kanina ni Awi. What
Oo nga
about your
pala,
red
side comment
flags?
pa lang pala yun.
Yeah,
May
oo.
nag-ask naman ako
Balikan kita.
tungkol sa yung red flags about hiring. Kasi parang, I
Ah,
think
okay.
that then becomes a deterrent. Parang kumbaga, you're deciding already for the future of this person, right? And that's life changing, right?
Mm-mm.
You don't choose this person just because she's a girl and who can get pregnant, or let's say you choose a girl who's not according to the physical qualifications. You've already doomed that person, no? Especially if there are also certain personal doubts or insecurity. Na-validate mo pa siya, 'di ba? So I think
Yeah.
that then becomes like, parang maybe for some, no, for some
Yeah.
organizations, that's really what they need. They're just being very specific. Pero for the people, it's like hanggang dito ka na lang. Hindi ka na puwede to go beyond
right.
your,
Ah,
so that I think is a very big red flag. Umpisa pa lang, hindi ka pa nga empleyado, may red flag na,
oo
parang
nga 'no.
gano'n.
Ano-ano pa lang siya 'no?
'Di
Sa
ba?
screening pa lang siya, yeah. Oo nga 'no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess I guess that also
Um,
all the more
mm.
no yung ganitong situations it puts women particularly at a disadvantage, hindi pa nagsisimula yung laban. So I have two examples. So one green flag and one red flag. Yung red
Mm.
flag lang, I'm sharing this just in case, there are women out there who are in the process of looking for another job. So there was one, and I'm talking about the same sort of organization. When during my final interview, the recruiter told me that, hey, I think you did well during this interview, and the head of HR would like to speak with you as for your final interview. So for that interview, make sure that you wear a skirt. And I said, why? Why I don't have a skirt? So I didn't go to the interview in a skirt. Apparently,
Parang
that was
in-expect
the
mo mag-skirt?
standard. Yeah, that was the standard
Okay.
instruction for everybody who was attending or who was going through the final interview. And there was
Mm.
one employee even who was asked to sing and dance. And when you're new, especially when you're a fresh graduate and you're wanting to get that job and you need that
Mm.
job, you can't really do anything um, that you feel still comfortable doing but are really not supposed to be part of the standard recruitment process. So if you encounter a similar incident with any of the interviewers, that already is a red flag. So you might want to reconsider joining that organization. Green flags naman. So there were two instances dahil marami akong anak. I have four kids. So for my first and third pregnancies, I was already pregnant when I started the recruitment process of the two different organizations. So the first one, I asked the hiring manager if it was okay that I don't go through X-ray as part of the pre-employment requirements
Requirements.
because I was pregnant, and he said, "No, yeah, it's okay, of course." So no questions asked. He just confirmed, and he even gave me um, a raise even before I joined. So he gave me more than my asking rate. Um, and then for my third job, again, I was already pregnant when I was being processed. And I also told that hiring manager that I wouldn't be going through the x ray because I was pregnant. And again, no questions asked, very supportive. And that the name of that manager actually is Coach Apa. So
Oh,
he was the
wow.
one yeah, he was the one who hired me. And those are definitely green flags. You know that you will be taken care of. You know that they respect you for the competence and what they think you will bring to the table based on how well you did during the interview,
Not
and
because
that's how they're going to treat you throughout your partnership as a team member and a manager.
the kind of mindset that we have right now, no, is ano siguro, parang woman is not up for success. Parang may pumipigil sa inyo more likely. Parang sa recruitment na portion pa lang, no, parang di kayo accept kasi ganito kayo, etc., etc. Feeling ko it's not up for success. Kaya siguro ewan ko lang, baka ngayon lang siguro yan, no. Yung usual na nasa board of directors, usually mga lalaki, yung mga ganun bagay.
For
Uh,
many organizations, yeah, at least in the financial industry. I
yeah.
don't know with other industries.
Pero,
Actually,
oh,
go ahead, Dudes.
pwede din natin siyang, siyempre kailangan din natin tignan that may objective reasons din why that happened.
Yeah.
Because there are, for example, there are reaction time to crisis. Uh, Science has it that we do that better as male.
Mm.
We are more stable in crisis than they are more emphatic for sure. They can relate more with the people for sure. But for if you need a quick response, if you need get things solved quickly and to handle the situation, mostly at least in the previous years, male yung may kaya nun. I'm not saying na for good that will be the case, but at least in the most recent years, ganun yung observation. Pero having been exposed to a lot of companies nowadays,
Yeah.
uh, especially marketing departments, CRMs are female because they don't miss details. Um, for for example, Mancom for particular banks, there are a lot of female players there as well.
Na.
Even CEOs. Tech companies have shifted to female CEOs as well. Even if you can recall AMD, they have a female president or CEO.
Mm.
So the the roles are shifting organically rin naman. Not just because we're giving way for them to do it, but they are getting the skills needed and the exposure needed to level up. So it's not an intentional barrier that we set for them. Maybe
Yeah.
before, considering the 50s, 60s, 70s, but sooner or later we realized na, I mean, they broke their own barriers that we've set for them, and they
Mm.
are exceeding expectations and doing very well. Even, paano ba yan? Unseating men leadership positions. So it's not something we intentionally set nowadays, but yeah, it's good that we understand how they navigate these issues that and red flags that you mentioned.
Yeah, in fact, dudes, no, in terms of intentionality, you will hear about, you hear more organizations putting up or setting up their DEI departments. Dati wala namang ganun eh. When I started working, we didn't used to have DEI departments or an officer who actually takes care of the organizational goals related to
Mm.
DEI. So definitely there have been shifts, at least in the corporate world that I see. Philippines in terms of politics, matagal na tayong nagkaroon ng women presidents, nakakadalawa na
Yan nga
tayo.
yung sabi ko, 'di ba?
Yes,
Pasalamat tayo kay ano, kay Cory
Tita
Aquino,
Cory.
naging presidente siya.
Correct.
I think
That's true.
truly parang and I think this is also aligned with what Dudes was saying a while ago. Siguro in the 50s, 60s, 70s, no? Pero pagdating ng 80s, 90s, doon na kasi parang, of course, I'm not being political here, it's stating a fact, no? Parang naging presidente si Cory eh. Siya yung unang female president. So,
Point.
parang, wow, pwede pala. So,
Yeah.
it became now um very aspirational for a lot, no? For a lot of women. Um to break the barriers. Oh, ito na nga, may batang
Oo.
may gusto makisali sa kwentuhan natin, ano?
Very interesting daw yung pinag-uusapan natin.
Hello. Ay, ko.
Ayun, no?
Ayan,
Sige.
sige, patuloy mo na si Milo. Hi, Milo.
Sige. Oh, just say
Sige,
hi na
guys.
lang. Hi!
Hi, Milo. Hi.
Medyo
Ayun,
related dun sa nabanggit ni Mama Mi.
Ito na lang yung yung
Mm.
eyeglasses ni Mia.
Medyo related dun sa na-mention ni Mama Mi. Miss Mia ba? Oh, Mama Mi. Mama Mi. uh, Recently, I've been seeing this over LinkedIn, yung mentorship. That it plays a real part. I mean, it plays a good part in the growth sa career ng women entrepreneurs. Once a female CEO is there, they are able to get more women to embrace the responsibilities usually handled by men, and that also contributes to the shift or uh, to the changing numbers in the mancom ganyan.
Yeah.
So say ba JP, what do you think in your business or dealing with a lot of manufacturing, construction firms, what are the red flags or green flags you see?
Siguro red flags, no? Yung mga naririnig ko with yung mga sinasabi sa HR kay na with Awit tsaka ni Mia, it's still really happening right now. I'm not sure if sa provinces lang ba sa Pilipinas or something. But there are still companies na ganun talaga yung mindset pa as of the moment. So those are red flags pa din. So
Mhm.
yun, kaya ko nga gusto malaman yung how does it feel sa
Mhm.
sa ano ba yun, yung pagtanggap sa mga babae sa workplace, etc. So, pero may iba naman, no, especially sa construction right now. there are really civil engineers na mga babae na nandun talaga sa project site, hindi natatakot and all. So it's actually breaking the barriers din na pag engineer dapat lalaki lang. So it's good to
Mhm.
have those. Even may na-meet nga akong isang babae din from Zamboanga City na siya yung in charge sa lahat ng mechanic at maintenance ng lahat ng equipment. So ganun. So um dati kasi mindset natin dati dapat panlalaki lang yun. Now
Yeah.
they're breaking it na. So yeah, it's good to have those people na breaking that barrier bitaw. They're breaking that barrier na pang lalaking trabaho lang yan. So yeah, it's
May
good to
follow-up
have.
question ako sa'yo actually.
Yeah, go.
Kasi, since you're dealing with processes and policies,
Hoy.
have you observed if companies have established anti-harassment policies or encourage reporting of incidents, or meron ba sila mga provisions to ensure that there's diversity in decision making? How do you think that can be applied as a process or as a policy?
Siguro it's not a requirement eh. It's not a requirement to have a policy, but it's encouraged to have one. No, it's actually a good practice sa especially with ISO certification, with international standard certification. It's not really specifically stated din na dapat ganito ganyan. Sabi lang niya it's good to have these policies eh. So siguro the process of creating one, sinong dapat na nagli-lead sa agenda,
Mhm.
etc. So baka dun. But in terms of wala eh. Wala pa siya international standard for it kasi. So, yun.
Does that
But
include, for example, walang requirement na workshop or training to address biases?
none. Wala pa. But feeling ko sa government meron. Hindi ko lang alam. Not really that sure pa. Uh,
Alright.
Sige.
Lods,
So,
baka
I think,
ano,
yeah.
sorry, singitang ko lang yun. Kasi there are also, so for instance, ISO is more processes for businesses, right? But there's
Mm,
also some process standard governing bodies that are more people related.
yeah.
So that I mean, an example of that would be investors and people, and then that would be, of course, free advertising sa kanila yun, ano. But anyway, yun. There are those. So maybe on top of being ISO certified, there's also that
Yeah.
being
Like mga best employer, yeah, top
Yes,
employer, yeah.
that's correct. Maybe the
Yeah, and
people certification. Yeah.
right.
Go ahead,
Yeah. And
Awi.
yeah, and on top of just the processes, it's really more I think it's the culture
Culture.
of the organization that allows or disallows the kinds of conversations that Mia, J. and I were talking about earlier, and the ones that you've overheard um, being talked about in the organizations that you worked with.
Mm,
It's when the culture of the organization makes it okay to talk about women in that way, then it's harder for women to actually voice out their concerns. However,
mm,
on the flip side, if there are those whenever there are those organizations that actually intentionally build safety through yung mga sinabi kanina ni dudes na nire-require yung DEI na or harassment orientation. Though the last company that I worked for,
mm,
they used to call themselves, nagbago na yung branding, but the company for women. We would have yearly reorientation or parang learning sessions on sexual harassment, on laws related to violence against women and girls.
mm,
And we would have a part of the onboarding process, an orientation on DEI and what it looks like, what an inclusive organization looks like, and what
mm,
practices we have as an organization that encourages people to safely express themselves, whether it be an anonymous phone call. So there's that, and then there's also training for managers
mm,
um, on how to handle reports. Of course, hindi lang si HR, but usually ang default kasi whenever you have issues with your manager or with um, other people in the organization, especially those who have authority, go to HR. But there are also some point people who are informal influencers in the organization that could also be trained to handle those kinds of situations. Yung nakwento lang sa kanila habang nagre-refill ng tubig sa pantry, pwede nilang sabihin na, do you want me to report this? Or, things like that.
Parang
It's
culture
very
of
good to
having a
help.
safe space, no?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. Sige. Thank you, Awi. Thank you for that. How about Coach Jejo? What other changes ba you hope for to have a better workplace for women?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to share an article that Gallup just released this month. No? So there's really data that shows that it says in the article that women account only for 23% of senior leadership roles globally. So it's happening. It's really happening that women have maybe fewer opportunities to advance in their career, and even in as I mentioned earlier, I'm a Gallup certified strengths coach, so we use Clifton Strengths, which is maybe for some listeners who are hearing it for the first time, it is an assessment wherein we can assess which are your top talents. So whether it's getting things done, like executing or influencing other people, or strategic thinking, or building relationships. And with the 30 million people have taken the assessment, the general data shows that women generally rank higher in relationship building teams than men in general. And I think it kind of applies to what si dudes Fernando said earlier, that 'di ba, in times of crisis we can rely generally on men, like to get things done, to think more clearly, which kind of aligns to that data that men are actually, they rank higher naman in terms of strategic thinking and executing teams. But both are equally really strong, teams, and very valuable in the workplace. So to answer your question, JP, what I would love to see, change in the workplace is just reviewing the performance management strategies of companies, maybe reviewing their rewards and recognition, that as much as people can get things done, we can also recognize the importance of being able to develop people, to build relationships in the workplace that actually result naman in good outcomes. So just revisiting that and really appreciating the value also that relationship building brings to a workplace, even if it's not like results kaagad. So there, yeah.
All right. Uh, JP, I think
Yeah.
we're almost reaching the 45-minute mark. So
Ah,
napasarap tayo sa conversation today.
teka, may timeline ba to?
Ah,
Akala ko 3 hours.
4 hours
Akala
ba?
ko 3 hours. Akala ko
pero
Akala
ano,
ko Anli.
hindi pala.
I just have a few points na na-observe ko na I think would really
Yeah,
help
go
us
ahead, please.
all understand the issue further, no? Or if there's an issue at all. We're not really seeking equality, we're seeking equity. So there's a difference there. First and foremost, equality refers to treating everyone the same, equal opportunities everyone. And if we want equality, we will also want to put females on the front lines of war. We want to put them as Poso
Yeah.
Negro people. Put them also as dapat 50-50, dapat 50% ng Poso Negro people, female and male, if we want equality. But we want
Yeah.
equity on the other hand, which focuses on providing them with resources and support that they need to achieve that same level of success or opportunity. So it's not really saying we're not treating you, we will treat you fairly. But again, na-mention ni Coach Jeju briefly, we are same levels on different but equal on. I mean, we can be on same levels but on different fields. So, and isa yon, no? Another thing was, we're talking about this because we want to understand for the sake of inclusion, not for compliance. Just to remind some of those listening now. Sometimes they listen to these talks, they take notes
Mm.
for sure para maganda yung compliance with things. But para mag-rank higher sa best place to work ganyan. But what we
Kaya
really
ayoko
are
isama yung ISO standard dito eh, kasi baka for compliance na lang.
Ayan. So, but,
No,
but,
sorry,
but
sorry.
kidding aside, but kidding aside yun nga, we aim for inclusion, not for, we're not doing just for the sake of compliance. And lastly, I think common denominator, regardless of female or the LGBTQ community or the introverts of the workplace, it's having a culture of safe space. Sabi nga ni JP.
Um,
So, any parting words before we end?
yeah, any message to all women to grow in the workplace, guys, before we end?
For me, it's really more directed to the leaders and the HR folks in the workplace because they're the ones who are in charge of the corporate culture, and it's really being more intentional and deliberate in providing the processes, the programs that create those safe spaces, not just for women, but also for everybody, basically, because we're missing out on the opportunity to leverage on each individual's strengths and talents and capabilities when there are certain practices and mindsets even that stop them from being fully themselves whenever they're in the workplace.
Thank you, Awi. How about Mama Mia? Go, Mama Mia.
Ako siguro, just for women to speak up when they feel uncomfortable. Yan. And that goes in the context of within work relationships inside the organization, or if they need to deal with clients as well.
Mm,
So just being able to speak up when you feel uncomfortable about something, I think that's the first step that every woman should make.
alright. Wow, that's nice. Okay. Coach J.
Yes, those are really great tips and advice to women. And I'd just like to add also for women to really get to know what your strengths are, because sometimes, they could be masquerading as weaknesses, and it will make it harder for us to tell our employers or our co-workers what we really need. Like the example I gave earlier, for the longest time, I thought being emotional was a weakness, but actually it turns out it's my top one, my top one strength. Some women are more data driven, and that's also a strength, analytical, less emotional. That's also a strength. So get to know what your strengths are so that you can also communicate better what you need in the workplace, and to have just better communication overall.
Dudes?
I already said my piece. English yun eh. Mag-recharge muna ako. Wala na akong English.
Konti-konti
Anyway,
pa, tapos.
Oo, naubos na eh. Yung brain cell ko na itutok ko dun sa closing remarks ko eh. So, go ahead.
anyway, thank you guys no for tonight. It's been wonderful. It's been productive. Very very madaming insights na nakukuha no yung mga viewers natin more dapat yung mga viewers natin. No? So, I hope there will be more like this no. Hopefully in the next few months we'll be having more business nightcaps, and yeah, dudes, I'll turn you over for some announcements, guys.
Alright, for those na natuwa sa pinag-uusapan namin, sana naman i-check nyo yung link below. Meet us in our next meeting.
Yeah.
Type bit.ly/BNIHawks_visitor so you can have fun with us during our BNI Hawks meetings, or reach out to us sa BNI Hawks Facebook page namin. Minsan nagre-reply kami. Just kidding. We reply. Magre-reply kami pag nag-message kayo.
And
Alright.
every Thursday, you have an opportunity to interact with us, and we hope that to also take that opportunity to share with us your
Mm.
businesses.
Yeah.
All right. And lastly, if you have questions or you want to suggest topics to us, email us cheers@businessnightcap.com. That's a legit email. So, uh, hindi ako
Yeah,
nagpo-promote
drinks.
ng inumin, pero guys,
Promotion.
Ay, naubos na yung
Cheers.
milk tea ko, eh.
Black label baka naman. Charot.
so
Anyway,
I think we really had a fun conversation tonight.
yeah,
Bitin,
Bitin,
Oo
no?
nga, always bitin.
ang
always.
dami pang puwedeng pag-usapan sa totoo lang.
All right, but I guess that would be it for today. Thank you very much, ladies, for sharing us your insights. Marami kaming natutunan. Sana ma-apply namin. I mean,
Lalo na email.
I
Lalo na
am
yung
hoping
pagbe-break sa email, wag yun. Wag talaga
Oo,
yun.
wag makipag-break sa email.
wag
Yun
makipag-break
lang.
sa email, mag-ghost na lang joke lang ulit. Pero yun, kidding aside, yun, we really had a good fun conversation, but very very fruitful. So thank you very much, and thank you, JP.
Thank you,
See you
dudes. Thank you.
see you again
See
next
you.
Bye.
month,
Okay.
guys. We're
See you next
signing
month.
off. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye!
Bye.